to be here and talk about energy because energy is a very, very sensitive topic for Maine's future. It is the topic for Maine's future. And if you don't think that it's not costing us jobs for being a high energy state, let me tell you, it is. We have lost in the last 3 years some major manufacturing companies because we're simply not competitive. And people keep asking me, what is your energy plan? My energy plan is very, very simple. I want to lower the heating cost to Maine residents, and I want to lower the cost of electricity to our industrial, commercials, and residential users. It simply is not competitive. We have lost businesses to Alabama, Arkansas, South Carolina, North Carolina because we're not competitive. So I'm not one that likes to pick and choose the winners and losers. I just know what the losers are. And I just know the ones that aren't competitive. And I know the ones that are really, really hurting our ability to attract these companies. I mean, Airbus, the CEO of Airbus, actually the chairman of the board of Airbus, asked me 2 questions. What's your energy cost? So I thought I'd be really slick. I said, our energy costs are the cheapest in New England. He said, okay, next question. Are you a right-to-work state? And he said, I said, no, we're not. He said, well, I'll come and have lobster with you this summer, but we're not going to put our money in Maine. And this is what he said. $600 million investment in Alabama is what they were going to make. Their power is going to be about 4 cents. And he said he could come up to Brunswick, Maine, invest $200 million. And the ROI in Alabama was much better because he said you just simply don't understand the amount of energy it requires to put a jet together. And he said, until you address that, you are going to have a problem. And folks, we are having a problem. We are having a desperate problem. Right now, today, when I leave here, I'm going back to my office and we're dealing with a major energy problem. We're losing a paper mill because of the high cost of energy. I've been preaching it for years that we need to remove the artificial requirements where we favor wind over everything else, and now we're trying to favor solar over everything else. One thing we have done, and it's not anything I did, the only thing I did is hired him, is Patrick Woodcock. He's been working with the other New England states and is finally making some headway in getting the other states to look at big hydro and to also look at natural gas. This winter has been a horrible winter. But for the residents of this state, some elderly in our state, I know of one lady who's been living wrapped in an electric blanket because she can't afford the oil. That's where we are, and it's you in this audience, you and the government that needs to get the heck out of the way and let you do your job so you can find your solutions. But while you're doing the R&D, I ask you this, don't ask the ratepayer to pay for it because they can't afford it. They simply can't afford it. When you go to Montreal and somebody can heat their home, can have electricity in their home, an 1,100 square foot home, and pay electricity at $34 a month, and you come to Maine and we're more than double. We're at $80 a month. You know, I am a profit guy. I come from the business world. I don't think that profit is a bad word. I really don't. I think a profit is a very good word in business. Greed, however, is a bad word in my book. And when you come to a state where they have the 12th highest energy costs in the country, and you ask them to pay for the R&D projects, I find that appalling. I find that appalling. I think that we as people, need to understand that energy costs is our salvation. We ought to be all working in the same direction. And like I said, I don't want to pick winners and losers. So this year, we came up with an idea. We're facing, down the road, we're facing a crisis with the budworm, the return of our budworm. And if you all remember back in the 70s and 80s, it was pretty devastating. So what I suggested is, look, we're not cutting the annual growth of our forest. That's bad. If you come from the forest industry, not cutting your annual growth when you're facing an epidemic of attack on your forests, you think that cutting the annual growth and maximizing the harvest of the good fiber before it hits is a good thing. So we were going to increase our annual cut to 180,000 cords from about 120,000 cords. We're way, way behind the annual growth. So I put a bill in, and what I was going to do is take the delta and put that money towards helping Mainers convert their heating systems. And I don't care which system you use. You could use pellets, you could use heat pumps. That's what we did at the Blaine house. We put in some heat pumps. Massive improvement in energy savings. You could go to wood, you could go to combination wood-gas, you could go to propane, although the gases, until we fix the pipeline and get a capacity issue resolved, is a problem. But in the dead of night, on a very cold February night, the bill was killed in committee by the President of the Senate. I find appalling and I find scandalous that a little rich boy would do that to the people of the state of Maine. And I will say that. I am very angry over that, because that was disgusting. That's what you call being bought and paid for. And that's a damn shame in the state of Maine. And I see my tracker with a smile back there, and he's tracking every word, and you ought to be ashamed. You ought to be ashamed to be in this room. Because, damn it, the people are struggling in this state. We are now number one in the state, in this country, as having the highest standard cost of living for the income that we earn. I don't like that. And the people in this room can stop it. And the people in this room helped me this week. You all helped me, and I thank you all very, very much, because this week, just a couple of nights ago, in the wee hours of the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, the Appropriations Committee came to their senses, and they passed 1807 through committee, so it goes to the House and the Senate, so that we can refund, replace the money they took out of the Budget Stabilization Fund and sell the bonds. Now that's a good thing for me. I think that's a really good thing for me. $150 million will generate somewhere around $2 billion investment over the next 3 years. I think that's good for me. So that's what the direction we're trying to go. If you can make, I called Governor Perry, that was last week, because there was a Monday morning we got up and the NEPO grid, I think the electricity hit like 38, 39 cents a kilowatt hour. So I called him because that whole week the legislature was discussing solar rebates. Of course, I had a picture this week, I don't know if you saw it, I had a nice, beautiful cape with solar panels all over the roof and 3 feet of snow. So I don't think they were working very well. So I asked him, I said, Rick, there's a lot of talk about solar in Maine right now. So what's your advice to? What would you tell me about solar? He says, Governor, there's one good thing about wind power. It's better than solar. So my point there is simply this. We're 500 miles from Pennsylvania. Largest natural gas deposit that we know. We have been putting pipes in the ground for the last couple of years so that we're prepared to get natural gas. We're getting a little bit from Canada, but we're just not having the capacity we need. So that's where we should be talking about. That's where we should be investing, is in that natural gas pipeline to come to Maine. Now, last year there was some talk about doing it alone, and I don't think that we can afford to do it alone, and that's why Patrick Woodcock has been working with the other New England states, and he's been very effective in getting people on board. The other New England states are now on board for looking at hydropower and natural gas. And with your help, we can get those here to Maine. We can lower our energy costs, we can move forward, and we can talk about bringing manufacturing back. I mean, we just got an investment of $120 million approved for 2 new tissue machines. The owners are Chinese, and they're very committed to coming to Maine. Now, I've been to China. In fact, I went to China, and while education was the primary purpose of going to China, I met the owners of this woodland mill in Shanghai. And he's very committed to coming here. And the one thing I saw over there, and I want to share with you, is we have enormous environmental pressures here. And I'm one of those that believes that we need to be a good steward to our lands. We need to be a good steward to the waters and to our farms. And that's why we work so hard at getting the sustainability for our lobster industry. I do believe we have to be good stewards because, particularly in lobster, it's family-owned business. It's a hand-me-down business. And it can't hand it down to your kids and your grandkids if you're not taking care of it. The same with our forest. We have more forest today than we had in 1955. We are in good shape in the forest. It's been managed better in the last 20 years than it was in the previous 100 years. So I'm very pleased about that. But we can take advantage of the forest, we can sustain the forest, and we can make a good living off the forest. We can attract manufacturing back to this country. But to get back to China, I was there 5 days, never rained, never saw a cloud, of course never saw the sun. So I feel this. We should probably interest some of our environmental groups to go to China for vacation. Once they get there, they'll look around and we won't see them for 10 years. And then we can sit down and work together, business and the environmental engineers and the professionals in the industry. The professionals. There's advocates and they're professionals. And I've worked with many of you that believe strongly in the environment, on how to make the environment work alongside business. That's what's important. But to eradicate the human race for the sake of the environment doesn't make much sense to me. And sometimes that's what we do. For instance, the bill in South Portland recently to prevent the gas pipeline to come through was not a smart move. There's a way to have a pipeline that'll be safe, and you let the environmental engineers to figure it out, and the engineering people, and they can come up with a good plan. So I think that there's plenty of room for everyone to get their piece of what they consider success, and we can work together. Like right now, we're going to have, I think there's going to be a ballot on a hunting initiative, I think bear initiative. So you talk to the scientists, and the scientists will tell you it's a massive mistake to do what they're doing. What you should do is have the biologists set the rules on controlling the size of the herd so that it can work for everyone. But if you outlaw everything and you deny science, then we're in trouble. we'll get in trouble down the road. So I'm a firm believer in the best technologies, the best science, and let's find a way to work for everyone. But picking, and if government sits and picks and loses, the winners and losers, we're in trouble. If government sits and makes its public policy based on lobby, he who has the largest lobby effort, we will lose. There has to be room for the lobbyists, for the environmentalists, for the engineers, for the professionals, and for public policy. We have to work together. But this idea of winning and losing and killing bills in the middle of the night on a cold February night is not good public policy. And this state needs a good shot in the arm. So in closing, I'm going to tell you this. As being governor 3.5 years, there's one thing that I have come away with that I absolutely believe is imperative for the state of Maine. You got to take term limits and you got to throw them out the window. Because what's happening now is we're having so many young people with very firm agendas that really are not based in good science. And we're passing bills and laws that are hurting us for the long haul. And I'll say it again, and if the tracker can track, John Martin and I are this far apart in our policies. But I don't think you'd ever see John Martin deliberately try to hurt the state's credit rating. Because he was experienced. He had knowledge. He knew what worked, what didn't work. And I never saw John deliberately do something that would hurt our state. So term limits are not good. There's 2 or 3 people aren't going to run this term. And one of them I have enormous respect for. He's a retired jet. He spent his life in farming, and he's not running. And he told me, he said, I like working for the Maine people. I just hate going through the hate season and all the stuff that's out there that simply isn't true. But even your friends, if they hear it enough, start to believe it. This is going to be one hellacious campaign. It is going to be the hate campaign of all campaigns. When the AFL-CIO says that the governor of Maine is number 2 on our hit list, it can't be good. It cannot be good. Nothing good's coming out of this season, if you're the governor of Maine anyways. But they're going to be really surprised in November, because I really believe the Maine people, whether they hate me, like me, or put up with me, they understand one thing. I'm going to say it the way I see it. I believe that I tell the truth. I don't sugarcoat anything. You can ask my wife. But they're with me 150%, because Maine can get better. Maine will get better. And we're showing it, and we're starting in one of the toughest counties. One of the toughest counties, Washington County, the poorest county in Maine, is getting a real shot in the arm with some investment, new technology investment in the paper industry. We're going to be working, we've got 2 or 3 other plans that are coming together very rapidly. They're going to be for Washington County and Aroostook County. And so we are working, we're putting our actions where our mouth is. We are going to fix it, and we are fixing it, and we need your help. And I will tell you this, when it comes to energy, we can't be here picking winners and losers. What we have to do is we have to use the resources we have. And I agree that natural gas is a fossil, and I agree it may not be the long-term answer for Earth, but right now, we need to be able to provide a decent subsistence level for Maine people. And natural gas is ready, and we need to take advantage of it, because other people will. We need to bring the cost of energy down so you folks can find the ways and the programs and the systems that will work for the future, for our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing we leave behind, is our legacy and our families. So we should all be working for the same thing. Money's great, and I'd like to have a lot more of it. But at the end of the day, I want my children to have a good life here in Maine, not in other states. Thank you.